All right. We are back. Row pastors sitting on the back row discussing and fixing all of life's problems. Our podcast is now ranked. I feel like we may be dead last, but we're on the board because we started last week.
Well, I guess technically we haven't actually been on a podcast server yet. We haven't loaded that up.
Oh, then we're not even ranked yet then.
We're probably not even ranked.
Unranked.
Unranked.
We are unranked. We are going to make a splash, although I will be honest with you, I have a lot of friends, as do you, listening from College Station. I feel like
We're
being
ranked higher than
unranked.
the Aggies.
We are ranked higher than the Aggies. Well, I wasn't even going to say it that way.
I mean, I might as well.
Oh, that is hilarious. We are ranked higher than the Aggies, and I'm again trying to figure out how to share.
I feel like there's this
Look at
cool
that.
thing called Google that would tell you how to share that on your
Oh,
social
I
media.
got it, dude. About week
Oh.
10, I should have it down. At
Down.
least, yeah. Every Sunday morning, I have to lean over and ask Cassie, how do I share the service? Because
Sure.
it has me as an admin, so when I go to the Word Community Church server, it makes me, like, if I want to share it on my own
Yep.
feed, I have to switch and flip and flop. And
You have to interact as yourself and not as the Word Community Church.
so for those listening, back row pastors, we talk about politics, we talk about Bible, we talk about Jesus, we talk about sports, all things, a little bit of Seinfeld, sometimes a show about nothing, and sometimes a show about everything. So
Well, I feel like for a younger audience who doesn't know what Seinfeld is, it's more like The Office.
I feel like that was an old shot.
Well,
I've never watched The Office.
really?
I think I am one of few. I stopped in the 90s.
You got to get past season one, but once you get past season one, it gets better.
And everybody tells me they were like, you would enjoy it. Because I like shows that
Sure.
don't, like the thing I like about Seinfeld, which I consider the greatest show ever made, is I don't have to think about it. It doesn't really, it's not about politics. Used to I could do sports.
Sure.
Because you get no politics in sports. That's
Sure.
long since changed.
Yep.
But now I can still watch Seinfeld and Friends reruns and just sit
yeah.
there and laugh.
Sure.
I just laugh. Friends is inappropriate, and
Absolutely.
but I just
The
laugh.
more you watch it, the more you realize how inappropriate it was.
It never dawned on me
Right. It
until now. It's like Shrek.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Oh, the innuendos in
Oh,
Shrek,
yeah.
but it's
Oh,
and I still think so. One of my favorite movies is totally inappropriate, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, especially if you ask Cassie. It makes me laugh, but I didn't realize how inappropriate it was. I think because I had watched the TV version so much.
Sure.
But I rented Major Pain back
Oh,
when
yeah.
we were.
Surprisingly.
Oh, it was like
Surprisingly.
to me, it's just a funny, good, feel-good movie, right?
It's kind of like the Goonies for me. I watch the Goonies and I go, man, I don't remember this whole Statue of David bit they had. And I'm watching this with my girls and I'm like, I don't know if I want to explain male anatomy to my 10 and 7-year-old yet.
Appropriate and not appropriate changes dynamics when you have children.
Oh, for sure.
Like I didn't even think Friends. Like I didn't realize all the innuendos,
Oh, sure.
even in Shrek. But now I've got my kids sitting there, and I'm like, whoa,
You're
whoa,
like,
whoa,
whoop.
whoa, whoa.
Missed that one. Yeah.
But when I rented Major Pain, my wife looked at me like, "You're an idiot," and I'm
what
like,
are you
"It's
doing?"
a good Disney movie, but
Yeah, absolutely.
it was great." And then about a quarter of the way through it, I shut it off because I'm like, "Oh my gosh!"
You start going and you're like, oh.
But truth be told, I was laughing still on the inside because
Sure.
some of it just makes me laugh because it's military and
Well, yeah, anytime.
it,
I like when the biker shows up to beat him up. That's probably my favorite part. And he just gets his butt whooped.
I can't tell you my two favorite lines in it because it's still I'm not supposed to be watching that, and my wife is listening and she's glaring at me even now through the phone because of my sense of humor. But Seinfeld to me is just it's fun. So
Well, according to Gene, you look like Kramer and I look like George.
oh wow, hey, I'll take Kramer. I bust into the office sometimes like Kramer.
Yeah, I feel like you do.
Hair on fire, doors slinging. What? So, but speaking of Seinfeld being the best TV show ever made, and you believe it's The Office, which I feel like if I watched The Office,
I
I
wouldn't
would.
say The Office is the best show. I would say it's equal. I'm just saying your kids aren't going to know what Seinfeld is, but they'll know what The
But they'll know
Office
what
is.
The Office is. It's equivalents of type
Right.
shows.
Correct.
What's the best show you think's ever made? Sitcom, not
I feel like
or TV show.
the one TV show that I could watch, like if it came on today, I would watch it. Friday Night Lights.
Oh, I still love that show.
Like, loved it.
Oh, I loved it too. My boys have watched it.
Yeah, I've watched it like 10 times.
I probably wouldn't let my 10-year-old watch it yet because there's still
Right.
enough sex scenes in
Right.
it. But I love it. I could sit down and rewatch that all over again.
Absolutely.
Clear
100%.
eyes, full hearts.
Can't lose.
Can't lose.
Can't lose.
Can't lose.
Yeah.
What since we're discussing the best of,
Mm-hmm.
and this could be a weekly thing. Let's come up with the best
The
of.
best
Yeah,
of.
See, that's how we figure
No.
stuff out as
Yeah,
we go.
this is where you start feeling, like me, this is where I start feeling nervous because you all of a sudden, the reason I don't like doing podcasts with you is you speak things into existence. And then we have to like scramble to
Well, see,
figure
like
out how
last,
to make that
I
happen.
actually still remember last week we were going to talk about Jesus in schools, and
Yeah,
there was something
absolutely.
else, but that was
Jesus in schools and being neighborly.
being neighborly. That is correct.
Being neighborly.
But I want to ask this question: the
Okay.
best of, and if you're listening, I want you to type it in the chat. Your answer. I threw it out there week one of our series, Functional Family, talking about the dysfunction of the holidays and
Sure.
Christmas.
Yep.
Even me saying the holidays, I have to follow it up with Christmas because there will be somebody be like, "You took Jesus out of Christmas." No, when I talk about the holidays, I'm talking about Thanksgiving.
Can't say Xmas.
No, I actually, yeah. But I'm talking about Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's.
Yep.
So it's the holidays and Christmas. Just pointing that out. But let's talk about the best because my wife kicked in the Hallmark Channel,
Oh gosh.
and it is wall-to-wall Christmas movies.
Worst.
Her and my daughter are sitting in there under blankets in front of the fireplace with Hallmark going, and it's their happy place.
Yeah, we came and picked up the girls from your house, and she had the couch moved,
Yes.
and I was just like, oh my gosh.
Like some people put up Christmas decorations and move furniture. My wife moves furniture based on the Hallmark Channel. And it got cold enough the fireplace
That
came
the
on.
fireplace
Yeah,
was
it's
on.
fireplace.
Yeah, we've been burning a lot of wood in our fireplace. So
It is
that's
cold.
One of my favorite things to do. So
I think tonight is supposed to be 23.
yeah, it's supposed to get chilly.
Best Christmas movie. In all seriousness,
Oh.
best Christmas movie ever.
Well, and it's an argument, but Die Hard for me.
Die Hard. I agree. Die Hard is
for-
a Christmas staple movie for sure.
I think for those who don't consider Die Hard a Christmas movie, I have a special place for the Santa Claus with Tim Allen.
Ah.
Like that's that one I'd watch. It cracks me up every time.
I had somebody after I said that on stage, the best Christmas movie, he said close to Die Hard would be Elf.
Yep.
I find a lot of people
Lot-
love Elf.
A lot of people love Elf. Even we, the car wash down the road from us does. They did an Elf themed car wash that we took the girls to, and they really enjoyed it. And they had, you drove through. You had to go through the tunnel to get to New York and all those things, and so they really enjoyed it. And I was like, this is really clever, and I bet you guys have made a bunch of money because you have an Elf themed car wash. If I had to make a guess.
I spent years working my way through college dressed as an elf. A lot of people don't know that. I dressed as an elf every single night. 10 years in the military,
Yeah, all right.
and I dressed as an elf. But it put food on the table.
Yeah, it puts food on the
It
table.
was a Dixie Stampede. I
I'm-
still have friends who dress as an elf.
I always, back in Texas, we hung Christmas lights for a couple seasons, and as much as I like being on a roof, they are awfully slippery.
They
Like-
are.
Like I get up there, and especially when you get to like the really nice houses that are going to pay you to good money to hang up their Christmas lights, and you get on those metal roofs, and you go, yeah, this is why they don't get up there, and they send, me
I
up
would
there.
almost pay somebody to put up Christmas lights. It's like the bane of my. I love them
Yep.
when they're up, but
Sure.
to put them up and to
Yep.
hang them right, like I
Oh,
get
yeah.
weirded out if one's drooping or one's not. Like
The really nice ones have like the outlets under their eaves to plug in for Christmas lights, and so that's when
planning ahead for
we-
Christmas.
we had to build lines and do all that, and it was just one of those. The sheer amount of things that I've done to make pocket change here and there is just
It's a
I
side
think
hustle to pay for the
side
Christmas,
hustle.
man.
It is, you know.
But I understand that we're no longer in a recession and inflation's going down and things are great.
Sure. I just went to Walmart and I would not agree with you one bit.
I'm going to put this out there because I looked at my wife. No, I'm not going to put it out there. The amount that I dropped at
Oh, sure.
Walmart last week for groceries.
I went yesterday and I went,
I have never in my life, and you couldn't have convinced me that
Oh,
I would
sure.
ever spend that at Walmart without a big ticket item. Like, I mean, I
Right,
get it if you're going in
absolutely.
and buy a TV or something.
Sure.
But, bro, I dropped, like, Cassie told me how much it was, and I just stared at her, you know, that moment of,
Are you sure?
mm,
Yeah, Claire gave me a list, and I tried really, really hard to stick to the list. And I was like, "Hey, babe, you told me it was going to cost this much, and I spent this much. I swear I didn't get anything extra. Other than I bought turkey, and the price of oil to fry turkey.
$50 a box.
Oh my gosh, it's gone nuts.
It's oil.
It's crazy to me.
And we haven't even hit winter.
No,
So I keep hearing the recession won't start till the first quarter of the year,
Sure.
and I'm thinking if I'm not in a recession right now, I don't want grocery prices. I don't want to know what that looks
I
like.
don't. Yeah, this has been the first time I bought meat. You know, I bought a turkey, but they're on sale, 98 cents a pound or whatever.
hmm
And so I just went, my gosh, I can't imagine.
This is where I usually start going once a week to like Winn-Dixie, where I found it for 99 cents a pound,
Sure.
and I buy about 10 turkeys over the
Sure.
next 2 weeks
Yep.
and stick them in a deep freezer for the rest
well,
of the year.
when Dixie, we just got their ad, and it was 49 cents if you spend $30, and
Yep.
I went, dang, missed out. Like, could have saved $7.
I've never been a big coupon shopper.
Yeah, me
I am a
neither.
coupon shopper now. I'm like, look for the deals, look for the.
You know, I worked at JCPenney prior to ministry, and we had the new CEO come in, and he got rid of all of our coupons and lowered the prices to the coupon prices,
Yeah.
and it went terribly. Like, people were pissed,
Really?
even though they were they're saving the same amount, but to be able to try to communicate that to our regular shoppers who are used to coupons, like they came in,
Mhm.
they got the coupons, that's what they wanted. It was just, man, he tanked the company, got fired shortly after, and now you see, you know, JCPenney's on the brink. It's been on the brink for.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
J.C. Penney's, I feel like, has been about to go under for
Mhm.
10 years
Mhm.
now. Like,
Yep.
you don't see it anymore. It's kind of like Sears to me. Like, growing up, talking about Christmas, Sears, and if you're really older, you remember
Sure.
Sears and Roebuck
Sure.
is what they were
Yep.
actually called. And you got a Sears catalog.
Yep.
And I remember going through circling things for my mom.
Sure.
But, I mean, you could go in there and they sold Craftsman.
Yep.
My dad was a Craftsman guy.
Well, they had
lifetime
a
warranty.
lifetime warranty.
So you could go get Craftsman tools or refrigerators and
Sure.
appliances or clothes.
Sure.
And they just went out of business.
They just
Like they were there
Yep.
one day, gone the next. I don't mean they just went out of. They went out of business a few years
Yep.
ago, but
he had tanked. I probably should thank him because he had tanked the company so much that I ended up getting laid off, and that's kind of what led me to Christ. So
no, there you go.
So thankful for him, but really pissed at the same time. Like-
it's a good thing, bad thing.
Like,
Well, you know, and I look at that, like some of the Star Wars, when I think about Christmas, you know, I grew up, you know, if I was to say 3 movies that I grew up watching, it was always Miracle on 34th Street. We watched the Macy's Parade, and
Yep.
then after that, there was Miracle on 34th Street. There was, what's that? It's a Wonderful Life.
Yep.
And then A Christmas Story. You know, you'll shoot
yeah.
your eye out,
Yep.
glue your tongue to a pole. But at the end of the day, I remember those catalogs, and I remember Santa Claus was always at Sears, and I
Sure.
remember all those. And I feel like most of those went out of business due to, I call it the Amazon age.
Oh yeah. Well,
Like-
I mean, you know, you used to want to go into a store and like feel the things you were going to purchase, and now you just look at the reviews and you go, "Oh, this is reviewed well." Well, at least I do. This is reviewed well, and I go, "Okay."
Well, and if you remember, well, it wasn't 5 years ago, our wives were neurotic about
yeah.
Black Friday shopping.
Sure.
So that we would all gather for
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving dinner, and then all the ladies would, we still had the newspapers,
Yep, we had to pick up a newspaper every
going
year.
through the Black Friday deals, and they planned out a thing, and then they'd show up about 7 o'clock the next morning, and then I would have to go back to the things that wouldn't
Right.
fit in their cars.
Yeah, Claire would show up back home and she would leave her car loaded and she would go nap.
Yes,
And
correct.
So,
But now I've been Black Friday shopping since Halloween.
oh sure.
Like I get
yeah.
these ads from like Amazon and other places.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I was in Walmart the other day and they had Black Friday TV sales.
Sure.
And I'm like, it's not Black Friday.
No, well, there's Black Friday. COVID changed. COVID changed Black Friday
Well, let's
For-
call it what it is. COVID Friday.
for the benefit of all retail workers.
Correct.
It changed it for the better, and more companies are giving not only Thanksgiving. I remember when I worked at JCPenney, we used to not encroach onto Thursday, and then they started doing like Thursday at 10 p.m. and then Thursday at 8 p.m. and then you just start going, we might as well just be open for Thanksgiving Day and just pay us.
Well, it's crazy to me because they also moved to this elongated deal because of the
Sure.
economy.
Yep.
And talking about the economy again, I keep hearing, hey, we're pulling out of it. But then I see this morning, so the company that put JCPenney out of business is actually about to lay off 10,000 workers. Amazon.
Oh yeah. Well, Jeff is moving on, and you go. It's kind of like Twitter, I guess, but you never quite. It's one of those things about major companies that I never understand. Hey, we're going to report record profits, and we're going to report record profits. We're going to raise our membership fees, and now we're going to lay off workers. I don't understand how that goes together.
Well, like
Record profits,
lay off workers.
raise fees, lay off workers.
Well, I believe that COVID actually made a lot of companies realize I can do it
Oh sure,
without as many as employees. Now, is it better? That's
Sure.
a debate. Like when you walk into a restaurant now and they're like, there's nobody working. Is it better is the debate, but I think it's capitalism, dude. A company's job is to make money.
absolutely. Well, that's their ultimate goal, is to protect their bottom line and their profit.
and I hear this. Well, they make record profits, so isn't
Right.
that what they're supposed to do?
Sure.
A company's, and this irks a lot of people. And understand, I grew up in a union family,
Sure.
right? But a company's job is to make money.
Right.
I mean, that's their sole purpose. And within that, great companies, in my opinion, look after their workers, look
Sure.
after their, but ultimately, even in employment is a contract between two people. The company says, I will pay you for this. You agree to that.
Sure.
That is a wage. And I think we often forget because we like the big bad boogeyman,
Right.
gas prices are up, blame Exxon. Well, it's not Exxon's fault. It's because we're not drilling. It's actually not because we're not drilling. It's because we're not refining.
Sure.
Because there's so much red tape. So if you want lower gas prices, have less red tape, allow the companies to make profits. Well, they make too much. What is too much?
Well, I always, the argument of, well, Amazon paid zero in taxes or whatever, and I go, they didn't pay zero. I go, they paid taxes on every employee. They're the second largest? No, who knows now? But the second largest employer in the nation, behind Walmart's number one. And you just go, they're employing people, they're paying those taxes, they're doing those things, and I don't mind giving them a tax break because they're employing, I don't know how many thousands of people.
Well, I keep hearing this fair. This word fair. I found that
Mhm.
amusing. They don't want fair. They want to tax more.
Sure.
But fair. I am and this probably won't ever happen, but I'm a huge flat tax guy.
Sure.
Everybody.
Sure.
That's fair to me. Everybody pay 10%. Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like tithing. Tithe to the government. That's not
Sure.
what I'm saying. But like if you blanket it and said everybody pays 10%
Sure.
flat tax, then everybody, I keep hearing this, pay your fair share. It's not what they're saying. It's not pay your fair share. They're saying if you make more, you should pay more. That's fair. To me, I say, okay, flat tax it, right? So if you said everybody pays 10% income tax, then
Sure.
once you make $1 million, they pay more.
Sure.
Because 10% is more
Right.
at $1 million than it is at 100.
At 100. Yep.
And if you said, okay, corporate-wise, if you do business in America, I don't
Yep.
care where your home office is. It can be in Sweden all you want it to be.
Sure.
But if you do business in America, you pay pick a number, it's arbitrary, 20%.
Sure.
Amazon's 20% looks a lot different than the music store down the street.
Sure.
But everybody's paying 20%, so you're going to hit. So it's flat tax.
Yeah,
I
at
think
least
that if you're looking for fair, is fair.
It's probably a little bit easier to budget for.
It'd be a lot easier to
You
budget.
know, and you don't have to go, where are the tax loopholes that I can take advantage of?
Yeah. You flat
And so-
tax it and
and
give a
just call it a
percentage
day.
to charitable giving. Say
Sure.
the government will match up to 2%. So if you give 2% to charitable giving, the government will take 2% off. So ultimately, you would be
Oh, that's an
paying
interesting thought.
6%,
Sure.
or you would be paying 16%.
Sure.
So as a company, if you want it, you're still getting a savings of it. So I'm going to put in 2%. Government's going to match that too. So ultimately, I'm getting 4% off. That gives me incentive to do it.
Sure.
But I'm still forking out 16% of profits and not tanking charitable giving. See, I'm brilliant. If they
Interesting.
just let me run the whole country, we'd be fine.
I mean, there's a way you can do that.
Yep.
I don't
I
think
could run for president.
you could run for president. We can announce it right now if you'd like.
I think I would have as much impact as Ye did running for president.
Well, I'm just saying, if we could make the big announcement right now. Wednesday morning, is Scott Wilmore ready to take charge of the country?
Dude, I wouldn't run for mayor, much less president. And
You've already got a little bit gray going on, and I can't imagine after 4 years.
I
how
can't,
much.
dude. My gray after
Got a little
4
salt
years,
and pepper going on.
just in leadership of a church, I feel like is so overwhelming. I can't fathom what those guys do, because you're
Oh, no.
talking 365 million lives.
Oh, sure.
You're talking about crazy people in the world that you have no control of, like a Putin or a Xi or a North
yeah.
Korea, or, you know, and so something they do over there that you have absolutely no control of directly affects 365 million people that you're supposed to be stewarding. I can't, like,
Not
No.
your cup of tea. So
no.
you
And-
are officially declining your potential run for president.
The main reason I would officially decline my official run for president would be they pull out everything in your closet and all the shadows and
Oh, sure.
skeletons. And honestly, my closet's full. I don't want them digging
Yeah.
into my high school. They start interviewing people in high school in my military days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Herschel Walker ain't got nothing on the closet that I got. So I'm like, I'll leave it in the
You'll
closet.
You'll leave it in the past.
I
You're
will.
looking forward to the future.
Mhm.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
why, you know.
I
your
could
rear
see me
mirror's
running
always-
just for mayor of this town with the amount of fan club that I have.
Oh,
and
sure.
I say that
I mean,
tongue
if,
in
you,
cheek.
if you'd like, I mean, Bobby Herndon's coming up, and I'm just saying it could be time for you to make that step.
I feel like it would give my Pharisee fan club something to talk about, though.
They may. Well, at least they.
They've been pretty bored lately. I haven't said anything stupid in a while.
Well, we can change that.
I mean, we are live. And now my wife is cringing.
And she's going, ooh.
Yeah, Trump. Let's talk a little politics before we
Okay.
get in the Bible.
Okay.
Trump declared he's running again. Good, bad,
Indifferent, I guess.
indifferent. Yep.
He's not who I would choose.
Oh, be careful.
He's not. If I had the ideal choice, it would be DeSantis or Crenshaw. But I mean,
Dude, think about this. What foreign country would come against a nation whose president has an eye patch?
oh my gosh, he probably goes, "Hey, I've been in your country before, and you didn't know it."
And you didn't know. He's a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
And he's like at the end of every single address, State of the Union,
Oh sure.
if he would just go, "Arr," dude, he would intimidate everybody.
Yeah, you could see him already dressing as a pirate for Halloween.
Exactly. And I love that statement. I've been in your country. I mean, I might have been in your living room and
Yeah.
you didn't know I
And
was
you would
there.
have had no idea.
And if you keep jacking with America, I'm
Oh,
going
sure.
to come back. Like, I love Crenshaw.
Yeah, he would be. I have been impressed with him, and he would be an ideal choice. I like what DeSantis is doing in Florida.
Well, it's hard to, I mean, success-wise, I'm not talking about the election, but you look
Sure.
at the surplus of Florida, the lack of unemployment, the fact
Sure.
he opened his state long before many opened theirs.
Yep.
The fact that COVID didn't decimate. I mean, like every metric he's had in Florida has
Sure.
shown success. Even the hurricane thing.
Sure.
Dude. He built the bridge back. Like you didn't hear anybody complaining about. Like you remember Katrina,
Oh yeah.
Bush didn't and we didn't and all
Sure.
that. I didn't hear a peep, and it destroyed
Oh yeah.
whole islands and communities. And everybody's like, yeah, we're back up and running 7 days later. Good to go.
I've enjoyed watching him, and I just went, if I had to make a choice, I don't. Does Trump excites a base? He's just, his temperament is what gets me. I think his policies were obviously pretty good for us, but I look at Trump and I just go, you're a guy who would have won if you could learn how to shut your mouth.
Hmm.
You know, because sometimes when you shut your mouth, you can say more than when you open it.
Well, if he'd just stand on the policies,
Absolutely.
he would be, because his policies, I mean, our economy was roaring.
Yep.
We weren't about to step into World War III. Russia
Sure.
just, accidental or not, bombed Poland.
Sure.
So it actually gives us the reason now, if Poland wants to cause a big enough fit,
Yep.
we're bound. So we're on the brink of World War III. You just, everybody screamed because we blew Iran's general off the map, but you know who wasn't jacking with us? Iran.
Yes.
His policies reminded me a lot of Reagan back in the day when
Sure.
Iran took the hostages. He was like, "You got 24 hours," and he didn't bomb their military. He bombed the ones who kidnapped those people. He bombed their homes.
Sure.
And you know what didn't happen anymore? Nobody kidnapped Americans.
Sure.
I mean, strength by deterrence is huge. I love all of Trump's policies, but the name calling, even we calling DeSantis DeSanctimonious, I'm like,
Right.
dude, we're not in kindergarten. Like, stop calling each other names.
Right. Like, if he had the temperament, he just.
I don't think he can win the suburban house moms, which seem to be a new voting bloc.
Sure.
Is what they're calling it, is a new voting bloc. I don't think he can unite.
I don't know. You look at it and I go, he doesn't. If it's between him and Biden again, neither one of those is exciting. Like, you're not excited for. I'm not excited to go vote, and I wish I was.
I think that 300. Here's the beauty of a republic, though. I don't think DeSantis is going to run.
I don't think so either.
I think he.
Why would? Well, I don't.
I mean, you're going to get eviscerated in the
Oh, sure.
in the run up to it, but
Well,
I do think Trump is going to have people run. I
Oh,
think the
yeah.
midterms hurt him a little bit in the fact that we didn't have the red wave, and now
Sure.
people like Ted Cruz is going to run. He
You think
always
so?
runs. Oh yeah, he's like Beto. He always runs. I don't think he'll win a couple of states.
Sure.
I think Nikki Haley runs. I think.
You know who I always really liked was Ben Carson.
Oh yeah.
I always really liked him.
He's-
And I wish he would have gotten more. And I just went him. I wish he would have been in Trump's place because I would have voted for Ben Carson in a heartbeat.
I think there's this catch-22 is the things people hate about Trump are the things that gets Trump to where he's at.
Sure.
And Ben Carson to me was somebody who was too soft-spoken.
Oh, sure.
He's somebody that had great policies, great heart, Christian beliefs, but he didn't have the personality to withstand and to separate himself from the pack. Like,
Sure.
because if you got 20 people running, you've got to be,
Oh,
you
yeah.
got to have something that sets you apart. And in today's culture, in the reality TV world that we live in, you've got to be somewhat bombastic
Sure.
to generate news
Well,
media. It's name
I mean-
recognition.
CNN's going to be really excited that Trump is running again because.
All of their ratings tanked when he stopped being president.
Oh, sure.
And it's hilarious to me
Oh,
because they have decided we're not a news organization. It is going to be a ratings debacle. But I think I think Cruz runs. I think Haley runs. I think Pence runs. Pence has come
That's
out.
interesting.
Yeah, I think Pence has come out aggressively. Like the fact he's coming out talking about all of the stuff now lends me to go. He's running and he's trying to paint Trump into this
That's an interesting
picture, whatever picture that is.
Sure.
I'm not a Republican. I am that independent.
Sure.
The Republican Party pisses me off a lot. I think they enjoy governing in the minority because you don't actually have to back up what you say.
Right.
It really
thought.
aggravates
Well, I feel
me.
like that's politics now is you make all these campaign promises, and you realistically, do you live up to them?
Can you live up to them?
Well, yeah, exactly.
In such a swampy, I mean, I'm almost to the point of going, politics is just politics. It's,
Yep.
I think the stock markets enjoy a split government, which we're
Sure.
about to have. We won the House today.
Yep.
So to me, I go, that stops the lunacy on both sides, but you also get nothing accomplished.
Sure. Sure.
So I don't, whatever.
Well, you got to govern by executive order and do all those things that you don't want to see people have to do, but, that's just life, I guess.
It is. I think that if Nick Saban would run for president, that he would at least win Alabama.
Well, for sure.
But I feel like after watching Nick Saban's press conferences over the past 4 years, that's the guy I want behind the mic. I at least want Nick Saban to be who is that gets in front of the cameras? What are they called? Press secretary.
Press secretary, yeah.
I feel like Nick Saban needs to be the press secretary of the United States, because he will look at them and be like, "Really, that's a dumb question, but let me answer it for you."
Yeah,
as I would talk to a child.
I don't think he's on the there are no stupid questions side of life. Watching him.
He makes me laugh when I look at his press conferences, and I think Lane Kiffin probably said it best. I mean, we're 2 kicks away from being undefeated, and I hear all these calls for, is it time to retire? I'm just like, shut up, it's 2 kicks. By the end of the day, it's 2 kicks.
Yeah.
But people have already got him retiring and hanging it up and all of this, and I'm like,
and he may.
He might.
I
mean, I would.
Might as well.
Like,
I think if I was gonna retire, if I was in his spot and I'm gonna retire, I'd want to go out on top, and so I'm feeling like this isn't his last season.
He's going to come back with something to prove.
Right. He's gonna come back and he'll win another, and then go. All right. See.
To which I go 10-2. Kentucky would love to be 10-2.
Oh, sure. Well, a lot of teams would.
Most teams, 98% of teams. Notre Dame still lives in a false reality that they're going to win next year. A&M lives in a false reality they're going to win it all next year. You have some teams like that. But on the flip side of that, you look at somebody like Chip Kelly, who went into LSU, and now they are going to the SEC championship, could possibly play in the CFP.
Oh, yeah.
You look at Washington, who's turned their program around overnight. You look at Lincoln Riley at USC.
9-1.
And they are not helping the coaching carousel at all.
Not at all.
To walk in and now be in the national championship conversation, you got some of these coaches who are like, just give me time, because it takes time to build a program, change culture, all of that. But these guys have stepped in and said,
well, you look at what they left in their wake. You look at Oklahoma after Lincoln Riley left, and they're not even in the conversation, and now USC, and you start to go,
Well, it's a Georgia. Georgia was yearly in, year out, 8-9 win team, 10 wins, get the SEC championship. Sure. Kirby Smart walks in, and now they are the dominant powerhouse in the nation, year in, year out. They're in it.
Yep.
So, I'm sitting here looking at the news as it continues to scroll by. Looks like China and Canada are in a spat.
Well, what's new?
Jeff Bezos is telling families to not buy new cars and TVs as the U.S. economy faces recession, while Amazon gears up to fire 10,000 staff. Facebook's firing 75% of their staff. Twitter's fired half their staff. But this is more global companies. I don't know how much that directly affects America. But
well, even if we talk about Northport, I'd go. I feel like you still see help wanted signs, and so I feel like you can still, if you want a job,
if you want to live in
an opportunity for you to get hired, probably make a fairly decent wage.
After living all over the United States, I have found the way that you can be less impacted by recession. Guaranteed.
How's that?
Move to a major college city.
Oh, yeah? Well.
It just doesn't hit as much.
Well, see, it felt like when we lived in College Station, it wasn't, you didn't see as many help wanted and think. I didn't feel like there was as many opportunities for someone without a college degree in College Station as there are here in Tuscaloosa, Northport. I feel like here, if you want to go, there's plenty of factory work. You can go work at the mine, and you can go make a pretty penny.
Well, we've always called that gray collar.
Yep.
It's And I find it somewhat amusing in College Station. We would have people coming into the coffee shop with college degrees,
Sure.
wanting jobs. But you've got gray collar guys who find a trade out of high school and they're making six figures.
Sure.
But I felt more in Texas when you feel the oil market crash
Oh, yeah. You
than
felt
the
it.
full economy. Definitely felt that. But like here, I go, gas prices and food prices affect everybody.
Right.
But job wise, I mean, the university's going to crank out
Sure.
major jobs. That's still going to continue. Mercedes isn't going to buckle.
Nope.
Tamco's not going to buckle. Goodrich isn't going to buckle. Nucor's not
Yep.
going to buckle. And you got guys over there making good wages.
Sure.
You know, even I was talking to a guy the other day. Coca-Cola. People are always going to drink Coke. We got a
Yep.
good Coke program here. And so I just don't feel like we'll feel that
Well,
pinch as
that's-
much.
And that's what I'm saying. The opportunities here for somebody, I feel like, are much more than they were in College Station.
Absolutely.
You know,
Everything
so-
doesn't revolve around oil and the college. There's
Right.
a lot more manufacturing. And Pfizer's here.
Yeah.
Um,
There's lots of things, and I just, if you want a job and you want, you know, you have to be willing to like put in a day's work. You know.
and teaching here. I mean,
Oh, sure.
there a lot of
They're-
schools are looking for teachers.
Yeah, they they're definitely looking for teachers, and subs has been an issue.
I've
And
got a
so-
problem with the substitute teaching world.
Yeah.
Pay them,
Oh, sure.
and you'll have subs.
Well, absolutely.
But you know, we've talked about that for a while now because I know your wife is in administration.
Yep.
I don't know what they call them now. I call them vice principals. I don't
She's
APs
an
now. Is that what
assistant
they're called?
principal.
But I know Cassie is a substitute nurse, and
Sure.
her phone every day,
Rings.
Oh
yeah.
and so they're struggling, and then obviously flu hit. I was talking to teachers out in
Oh,
our
yeah.
neck of the woods, and they're like, we're having to combine classes.
Mhm.
Teachers catching the flu. We don't have substitutes. Pay them.
Sure.
Up the pay.
Absolutely.
$100 a day. Would you go in for $100 a day?
Well, I think it's at $80 a day. I think
I think it's at 60.
is it? I don't know.
I think it's 80 if you're certified.
What Claire said,
If you're uncertified.
because you have to still go get your fingerprints. And
I'm
whatever
out. No, I'm
whatever
just kidding.
whatever the cost of getting your fingerprints done, your first day of work will pay for that, and so you're not making any money until your second day of work.
I also, I looked at doing it, you know, just kind of side hustle and to
Sure.
help out.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to get in there and help, you know, the sports world and PE and stuff like
as
that.
a church, we want to be in the community, and it's easy to be in the community when you're in a school.
Absolutely, and I think that's a great way. You know, a youth pastor side hustle, go
Oh, sure.
teach go substitute at a middle school or high school. But I sit there and I go, you enter into it, and they're not going to actually get paid because it's only a once a month deal.
Right.
So they're really not going to get paid for almost a month and a half.
Oh, yeah.
And by that time, you know, I sit there and say, hey, pay them every 2 weeks
Sure.
and up the pay a little bit, and I bet you got substitutes.
That is a difference. You know, Claire's been in education since we've been married. She went out after college. She went and got a job in College Station. They paid on the 10th and the 25th. And then here it was like, oh, it's once a month, and I'm like, oh, I mean, I have a love-hate with it. It's nice to get that paycheck, and I go, okay, we can pay all our bills, and then with my paycheck, we can do all the fun stuff and everything else. But having to navigate the difference between going and just going, okay, full month of pay, having to better be in your budget and do those things. I wish it was every 2 weeks, but
They, you know, sitting there talking about school, my sons have asked, they're like, Dad, why don't you come up and substitute up at the high school?
sure.
They said I'd be the most chill. I don't really know what that means, but
I don't know if I'd want to do high school.
I'd get in trouble because they're inevitably going to ask me a question
Sure.
that I am not going. I was called a liberal pastor a couple weeks ago, to which I was talking to MK yesterday, and I said, yeah, I got called a liberal, and she was like, your stances are far right,
Sure.
and I'm like, correct, like, but it's the way
Sure.
I dress and
Yeah,
tattoos
sure.
and stuff like that. What they really mean when they say I'm liberal is I'm not Southern Baptist.
Right. You're not wearing the suit.
I'm not
doing
wearing
all
the
those
suit.
things.
I'm, got the tattoos, which is going to send me to hell.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, if I got into a school system, and this is what I want to talk about See, it took us 45 minutes, but I've got here. Jesus not in school and what you have to allow and condone now. How does that work in your? I don't want to ask you about your wife's life because I don't want to bring her into the mix. But your thoughts on social issues in the church, and can you stand for biblical principles as a teacher or an administrator in today's culture? That's my question.
Well, I actually talked with Claire about this last week after I said, "Hey, we're gonna talk about education and God in schools," and she rolled her eyes at me and was like, "Of course you are." And I said, "Well, I want to get your perspective," and she said, "Well, I think everybody would be pleasantly surprised to hear the amount of teachers who pray for their students every day and do things like that." But her as a teacher, even when she's talking with LGBTQ and all those, and even around that confusion, she said, uh, first and foremost, her job was she needed to love her students wherever they are.
Well, that's number one biblical principle: unconditional love.
Right. Wherever they are. Her students knew where she stood. And so, but that was it. Her job was, number one, love her students. Number two, keep them safe. Number three, teach. And so when she was asking about it, she goes, "It's not that God's not in schools. He's not in homes anymore."
Ooh.
And she goes, we have kids, she's in elementary school now, and the amount of disrespectful kids or parents who, if she handles a lot of discipline issues, and with parents even going, "How do I discipline my kid?" And you just go, there's this God not in home, and if God was at home, you wouldn't have to worry about school issues anymore.
Well, I think that's a huge statement because for me, that's an interesting take too.
Sure.
Because I think a lot of times in our world, church world, which
Sure.
most people don't live in, let's be
Right.
honest. But in our world, I sit there and I can scream, they've taken God out of school because I grew up, you stood up, you said the pledge, somebody prayed over the inner
Sure.
chime, and then you moved down. But even the morals of the school were founded on biblical principles, right?
Sure.
But at the end of the day, we don't do that in our homes. It's not, and I've always said this, and I love the schools my kids go to because I'll get a text from a teacher says, "Hey, da 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 da."
Sure.
Right. And my issue with schools now, and even in the political world, I watch it play out in
Right.
places like Virginia. It's not the teacher's job to raise my child.
100%.
It's not the church's job to raise my child. It's my job
100%.
as a parent to raise my child. And if I am living on biblical principles, like you just said,
Sure.
then my child will hopefully produce the fruit of that,
Right.
making their moral foundation. And it's not even just the yes-sirs and no-sirs of the
Well,
world,
yeah.
but it's walking in and, loving your fellow classmate,
Right.
not trashing, not gossiping, not looking down on, not picking on, not bullying. Just honor and respect have
Right.
a huge, and that's biblical principles,
Sure.
But that would change the dynamics if parents would parent their kids.
Sure. Well, and I think, having to parent my parents parenting me and me now having to parent my own children, we're in two different worlds, and so now it's, at least when I was in school, if you were being bullied, at least I felt like once you got home it was done.
Mm-hmm.
And now, it's all over social media, and it's
Yeah.
constant, and it's, you used to be able to get away from it, and now you just can't.
Well,
And now it's just constant, and you just go. If I had to say what's the biggest issue facing children now, number one is their attention span has drastically dropped. I mean, you look at Facebook. What are the most popular videos in the internet world? And it's TikToks under a minute. It's Facebook Reels under a minute. It's Instagram Reels under a minute. Everything's under a minute. Kids are constantly just inundated with all these things. They just don't know how to be bored anymore. You know, you're bored and you went outside and you chopped wood.
Go outside and play. That's what my
Yeah.
mommy said.
Right.
Well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
It means go outside and find something to do.
It means get out of my face.
That's what it means. Well, how do you discipline a kid? Like, I mean, they could go ask CB Wilmore that. He had a belt hanging
See,
in the
I
closet.
just can't see it from CB.
Oh,
Can't see it.
well, but everybody tells me that they're like CB and Arlene Wilmore would never, and I'm like the amount of this is gonna hurt me more than you, and I'm like, no, it's not. it's gonna hurt. But at the end of the day, I remember my first paddling in school. I was in the first grade.
See, we didn't have paddling.
Oh, we did, and it was by Mrs. Drain.
Mm.
I still remember to this day, and I remember why. I'm not going to say it on the podcast. It's well deserved.
Sure.
I feel like any time I got spanked, it was well deserved. Even if I didn't actually do it, the amount that I got away with that they didn't know, it was always kind of like,
Sure.
you know. But if parents would discipline their children at home,
Oh yeah.
like I grew up in a world where if I got in trouble at school, especially high school,
Oh yeah.
middle school, high school, if I got in trouble at school, they didn't actually, like the principal was the least of my concern.
Oh yeah. I didn't
They
wanna
sent
go
me to
home.
a coach
Oh sure.
who bleachered me and burpeed
yeah.
me and, you know,
Run till you throw up.
run till you puke. But it was a gauntlet, so the teacher would call the coach. And then the coach would call my dad. And so it was like this gauntlet of, like, they made it, like, principal. I don't know that I was ever really in a principal's office, but I ran a lot of bleachers, and I did a lot of up-downs.
Oh yeah.
And then I got home, and you caught it from your parents as well.
Oh, sure.
So you just weighed out the options. Was it worth it? And typically the answer was no.
That is one thing we have preached to our kids is if you get in trouble at school, you're going to be in trouble at home. And the teacher, I remember Paisley walking in with, it was April Fool's, but she walked in with like a detention slip, and on the front it was, here are these issues, and then on the back it was like April Fool's, and she sent that to me, and I blew my top. And I was like, I don't know who you think you are, and she was like, oh my gosh, look at the back. And I was just like, oh.
I could see teacher Claire, administrator Claire, dad going, like all of that, like,
yeah,
you know.
I'm a very calm individual, but no.
And first off, your daughter doesn't, like, she does no wrong, so
she
I can't
does.
imagine her getting
she's got
that.
an attitude. That's what she has.
Well, you know, that's, I don't feel like I agree with that. I think your kids do no wrong. But if you told me my kids didn't, I'm like, yeah, okay. But so segueing into that, back in my day, my mom would look at me and she'd say, "Go outside and play."
Oh sure.
And what that meant is I had a little bitty neighborhood. By that I mean there were like 6 or 7 houses in a row because we lived on a highway.
Yep.
But in those 6 or 7 houses were kids, older and younger. Didn't matter. We went outside and we played.
Oh yeah.
Grab a ball and played stick ball,
Yep.
grab a shovel and dig in the dirt, like clubhouses, you know,
Oh, yeah.
all those old school things that you see now.
Sure.
I made a comment because you were doing trick-or-treating and you had created this, for lack of a better word, potato missile. It was actually a mortar. Like my brain in the
basically.
military, you had created a mortar to
Yeah.
shoot candy into
Yeah.
the air, which you were the talk of the neighborhood.
Sure.
And you made a statement. You said, if you want me to tell you what's wrong with America, it's we don't have neighbors anymore.
Yep.
What'd you mean by that?
Well, I mean, when's the last, like, do you know your neighbor?
I'm a bad person to ask that question because I live in the middle of nowhere.
Well, sure.
However, even I don't really know my neighbor. I've met them.
Sure.
I don't know them.
I mean, when's the last time, like, you know, you used to go out and you'd go in your immediate neighbors, you know, right, left, in front of, behind, probably. You would go and you would drop off, you know, Christmas cookies for. When's the last time you've seen that done?
Oh, no, like when we moved in, and to their credit, we moved in, and I live in the country.
Sure.
But we have nobody on our one side. It's all, we're about to have a lot of neighbors.
Sure.
But when we bought it, it was Westerfelt Mining Timberland. But on the other side, my wife was at home and she texted me and she said, a lady just brought me a pie.
I see.
And
Yeah.
I said, well, that's Alabama. You move
Yeah.
in, you come over, and you bring them.
Sure. You
I
say
mean, it
welcome
was-
to the neighborhood, and
It was old school, but the fact that, dude, we've lived everywhere,
sure.
all over the country, but she had never seen that.
Yeah.
And so, but I grew up with that.
Sure.
Anybody moved into town, everybody like welcomed them and knew them and all of that. I think our church does a great job with that.
Sure.
Like if you move, we're over there. But as far as neighbors go, why do you think there's been a shift in neighbors?
Well, I mean, you even look at social media and what do you watch? It's these Karens of a neighbor, complaining about your fence is over too far, and just
My grass isn't mowed
Right,
enough.
yeah, your
You
grass.
like HOAs. I'm not a
people hate HOAs when they're living there, and they love them when they sell.
Well, yeah, they keep your home
They
value
keep
up.
your home value up. But yeah, I mean, we had an HOA in Texas, and I was part of that organization, and I was the president right before we moved. And I don't, you obviously there's bad HOAs out there, but
Well, any
there's
board
good
is
ones
good
too.
till it's not.
But you want when it comes to when you were growing up, I bet you went to a neighbor's house to pick up a friend, or you would drive by and you see all the bikes laying in the ground. And that's where you knew where all the kids were,
Exactly.
and you just went,
And if mom needed you and couldn't find you, she'd pick up the phone,
Sure.
the old phone with the long.
should call
Slinky.
your first.
She'd start down
Yep.
the list of houses because you were gonna typically be somewhere.
Right.
And even in Texas, we lived out in Duck Haven,
Sure.
and one of the things when we moved, my wife said, we wanted to be the home that the kids felt comfortable running
Sure.
in and out
Yeah,
of.
absolutely. That's where we are now.
I remember sitting on the couch and this kid runs in, and I'm like, "Hey, who are you?" And he tells me his name, and I'm like, "Does your daddy know you're here?" And he's like, "I don't think so." I said, "You need to let him know you're here." And I don't think
Sure.
he ever did, but at one point the dad did come over, and he was like, because it had gotten dark, and he was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, I didn't want him to ride his bike." And I'm like, "Hey, I'm Scott." He's like, "Hey, I'm so and so," and I'm like, "I have no
Yeah.
idea who you are."
Sure.
But we loved to be in the house that the kids ran in and out of,
Absolutely.
the house that they opened the fridge. Some teammates walk in and they felt comfortable opening
Yeah,
the fridge.
Absolutely.
And I do think we miss that now because I believe also we watch a lot of these sensationalized shows. And in my day, I'd get on my Huffy bicycle,
Oh yeah.
be home before dark.
Yep.
That was the metric. Be home before dark. And dude, I would ride Cedar Bend Road
Sure.
for hours.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm rewatching a show which I love. Cassie and I have certain shows that we watch together, but I'm watching Criminal Minds again.
Sure.
I started in season 1. I also started Hawaii Five-0, but I like the cop shows.
Sure.
But watching Criminal Minds, I'm like, I would never tell my daughter be home before dark at
Right.
1 in the afternoon
Sure.
and not know where she's at. Like
And not now.
I have
Right.
tracking,
And
I
that's-
have cell phones,
right.
I have Apple Tracker, I have,
That's all the difference now. And then I mean,
Do you feel like
we-
that's why the neighborhood stuff doesn't work anymore?
I think people are a lot more nervous about their kid. I mean, this is a disagreement between Claire and I. I'm very much, the girls can go down to the park, and she's like, well, you need to sit on the bench in the front, and, at least you can listen. And I'm like, no, like, it'll be fine. Like, they're grown, they know, they're not dumb. Like, and I feel like they can do those things.
Well, it's a
But-
double-sided coin
Oh, sure.
because you don't teach your kids to be independent, and what you have is a bunch of. Let me think of how I can put this because we're on the radio.
You got to pop it out their mouth.
Yeah, see, Major Payne
Yeah.
had that. At some point you gotta let your
Oh, sure.
kids because they're gonna move out.
Well, you got to find a community in which you feel safe letting your kids be kids.
And that's the difference is I think that you teach your kids some independence
Sure.
by, hey, I'm going to let you go to the park by yourself.
You want to talk about the importance of church?
Oh, yeah.
There it is right there. You have a community where you can let your kids roam free, bounce balls, and it's a safe environment. And you just go,
The amount of times I look around, I have no idea where my kids are.
oh, sure.
But I know they're in the building or
They're-
one of the buildings.
They're somewhere.
And they're safe.
And they're having a good time.
But I know that the adults that are coming up and that will engage with them are safe.
Right.
And that, to me, it would be a perfect neighborhood. The
Sure.
neighborhood y'all lived in Texas.
Yep.
I loved that neighborhood. We would go over to
did too.
your house for all the stuff.
Yep.
Because y'all did a 4th of July parade in your neighborhood.
Yep.
And it was a master plan neighborhood, so there were, a couple hundred homes in there?
Yeah, I think we had 124 homes.
124 homes.
Something like that.
But y'all would do a neighborhood parade, right? Y'all's neighborhood is the one the kids would come to for the candy. Like here it's
Right.
Clear Creek, right?
Right.
So, but there, it was your neighborhood. And like at Christmas, your whole, just the fact that your neighborhood would do stuff
Sure.
was reminiscent and actually made me nostalgic.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm like, there was a day our neighbors and neighborhoods and stuff like that, but you don't see it anymore. And when you made the statement, if you want to change America, get back to the neighborhoods, I went,
Yeah.
huh.
Well, just start being neighborly again. Like, the easiest thing, if I had to say, how can you be, like, what's a practical next step you can take to be neighborly? You're going to get some odd looks, but over Christmas at some point, make some extra cookies, make some extra whatever, and go drop off a platter to your neighbor and just say, hey, we wanted to say Merry Christmas.
I'm going to do that.
Just do it.
Actually, the only reason I met my neighbor is because junior, senior prank wars, they left a pile of trash in
Sure.
their yard as they were running. And I was going to shoot a shotgun off in the middle of the
Sure.
night. And I'm like, I don't, because the neighbor that brought me the pie, they sold the house and moved. But the new neighbors, I'm like, I haven't met them. And if I shoot a shotgun at midnight, are they going to call the sheriffs? I didn't
Sure.
want the sheriffs. Sheriffs were already driving by my house anyway because of all the
Sure.
chaos. But I'm like, I knock on the door and this guy comes in. I'm like, hey, dude, I'm your neighbor. If I shoot a gun at midnight, don't call the cops. And he goes, yeah, my wife said it's junior prank wars, and y'all look like y'all got a junior or senior. And I'm like, yep, we do. But the fact that that's what drove me to, rather than go over there when they moved in.
Sure.
I should have done what they did
Sure.
for us. But I like that idea.
Yeah, go out. Just
5 neighbors.
do 2 neighbors.
For
if
me,
it-
that's a half a mile.
Okay.
I'm like,
Do your immediate neighbors.
To the left and
one
to the right.
left and to the right. And, I'm fortunate enough I have really great neighbors. We met them when we moved in, and we've grown a relationship with them. And so it's been nice. And, our girls, it helps to have kids. Our kids have grown up in church, and so they're not, like, there's no stranger danger in them.
mm-hmm.
And so that's helpful with neighbors because they go up and they.
And that to me is
talk.
the double-sided coin,
That's the
because
double-sided
my
coin.
kids don't look at people as, they're just like, hey, what's
Yeah.
up? Because
Yeah.
they're in church all the time. and
Absolutely.
people engage and they don't know a lot of them,
Yep.
but they're still, but you get into a situation like you take them to Six Flags,
Sure.
and I'm like, don't talk to strangers. Well, Dad,
we
you
were-
make me talk to strangers every week.
We were in the mall, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, shopping for something, and there was this guy had one leg, and Quinn kept looking at him, and she goes, "Hey, how come he has one leg?" And I said, "I don't know. Maybe you should just go ask." And she goes, "Can I?" And I'm like, "Yeah, just be polite about it." And so she walked up to him, and he goes, "No one ever asked me, but this is why you should go to the doctor and get things checked out." And he went into his whole spiel, and he was just like, "Hey, thanks for letting your kids come talk." Usually they're like, scared of it, and she just wanted to know. She's just curious. Claire's looking at me like, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing?" And
So we're getting ready to close out. Hour's up.
Yep.
But next week, you are in our church, and in my opinion as well. I don't typically teach on parenting. I mean, I can
Oh,
give you
gosh.
the textbook stuff.
Sure.
But you made the statement this week, if we would bring God back in the homes.
Sure.
So if parents would be parents.
Yep.
Next week, I want to talk about how to godly parent a child in today's culture.
Tough one.
Yeah, that's a real tough one, and I'm gonna take notes from you because you and Claire, y'all teach the parenting, and y'all are the resident, what I would call the resident experts on it. Which I do believe that the only experts in parenting are the ones who don't have children.
Well, at least they have the most formed opinion.
It's like the armchair quarterbacks.
That's
The most brilliant coaches are the ones
Yep.
who've never coached.
Yep.
Because until you step out onto that field. But next week I wanna answer the question: what does godly parenting look like
Sure.
in today's culture?
Sure.
And then how do you discipline your kids in a culture that doesn't discipline children?
Interesting one. Yep.
Yep, because you actually told me once, and I try to use it with my kids now, and you didn't even realize you said it. You said give them an option. And I'm like, huh. And so now I give them an option. They're both options I will approve of.
Well, sure.
You don't be like, hey, you can eat 14 cookies.
That's called conscious discipline.
Conscious discipline. That was the word. You said that years ago, and I was like,
Claire's mom is like an expert in conscious discipline. We just don't agree on the options she gives. I just go.
Well, I do think you gotta lead in the.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's choices that are appropriate.
It's choices that are appropriate. So that's where we're gonna leave off today. It's time to go. Nick Saban's the greatest coach in the world. No matter who's in office, everything's going to be all right because we serve a God who has our nation in the palm of his hand. And I'm going to tell you, Biden, Trump, DeSantis, none of them are going to save our nation. I believe only turning back to Jesus will save our nation. But it sure is fun to talk about.
Maybe that's what we should talk about next week as well. How do we get the nation to turn back towards Christ? There's my question for you.
How do we get the nation to turn back towards Christ is next week, and how do you godly parent in a culture that doesn't?
Yeah, let's make sure we write that down.
All right. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We'll see you back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Bye-bye.
Bye.